Welcome, everyone, to episode 294 of the Constant Calibrating podcast, right? As always, I'm your host, Josh Silverman, joined by my co-host Justin Stanley. Ryan Furster may be here in a little bit, but we got Justin here. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Little tired. Took the kids to the splash pad right before this and ate a lot of ice cream. So my body is very sugar high right now. But
I am eating some peanut M&Ms. Fuck you, Greg Miller. They're better.
Ooh,
the call out right at the beginning. But
gonna
hey,
come out swinging.
Come out swinging. But we got a guest here on this week's show. We're joined by our special guest Hunter Bond of Berserk Studio. Hunter,
Hello.
We finally have you on a podcast.
Yeah, I know. We've been talking about it since I was at two other different jobs.
Yeah, we've been talking through this for a very, very long time. Is always just perspective, hey, you should come on the show, or hey, I should come on your show, kind of thing.
It's good. You're getting peak Hunter though, because this is the best job I've had in a long time, and it's philosophically the most aligned with me as a person, where I get to sell something that I'm I love this. This is something I wholeheartedly encourage people to buy.
I respect that. I appreciate that. I love that. Well, speaking of something you love to sell, that you want people to buy. What is it you do? You work for Berserk Studio.
I do. Yeah. So Berserk Studio is a Quebec City based indie studio. Obviously we make video games, but we've been around for a pretty long time. We just last December celebrated 10 years as a studio. And they go way back. Yeah, I know. Awesome. It was awesome. I went up to Quebec and got to celebrate with everybody. And one of the things that isn't, I guess, as widely known is that the Montreal and Quebec City area has a really tightly knit dev community. And so our 10-year anniversary party was also attended by all the guys at Sabotage who made Messenger, and our friends at Chainsawsome who made Night Squad. There's a bunch of studios up there, and there's also Ubisoft is in Quebec City, and so Berserk made Flash games back in the day, that they all the way back to the Flash games licensing and Newgrounds days.
That's awesome.
I was about to say Newgrounds.
Yeah, yeah. That's it's funny because so one of the roles that I do is I'm a hybrid PR, marketing, branding, community kind of guy, because we're a small team. We have 10 people now, I think, and that's a lot of that's code. We have more full-time coders than anything else, and then artists, and then me and my coworker Mike, he's kind of in charge of biz dev and everything. And then I handle everything else. So we kind of Venn diagram our jobs, because it's when you're at a small studio, any place that has very specific job roles is really not that small, I guess.
For sure. No, I mean, I get that. Makes sense. That was always something whenever any job I've ever had, I'm I like job titles and job roles. I like to have specifically talk about what everyone does. And then I'm it's me and Justin and 3 other people. What am I doing here? Why am I giving people specific roles and titles?
You don't
Everyone do shit.
You like to collect job titles like Pokemon, where you're yeah, this is also me. I also do that.
Makes the business card look nice.
Well, I mean, that was my old business card. The first one I ever tried to make once we started taking stuff seriously was we would do with our business cards, we'd have our titles and stuff like that. When Justin became the creative director, I thought, so Justin's got his creative director title, we'll have a bunch of other ones. But I do so much for Constant Calibrating, I'm going to be the holder of titles. Fun thing, holder of titles when written really small on a business card.
Oh, no. Yep.
It looks kind of hold. Yeah. You could let's just go with what you can imagine what it looks like. So, thankfully my wife spotted that before I actually sent them to print, but that was going to be my first business card for my very first PAX West back in 2016, I think is when Justin and I went first time.
I think it would have worked for unintended reasons. People would have been hold on. All right.
Well, it's specifically the font. We use this font called Cisco for all of our constant calibrating stuff, and it's just the way the letters stacked. Just, yeah, no, it didn't look right. But no, now that I'm friends with a lot of people in the industry, more than I was, 3 years ago, I look at some of the people I'm friends with so this group of people would have loved this business card.
Right. You know who would have laughed at it.
And this group of people would have never come on the podcast and would have killed all my chance of getting hired in the industry.
See, I would say, at least get some to really read it.
Yes, I mean there is that fact, but it definitely gets them to at least do the double take look.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the story would have, like, if you wanted to double down on it and not reprint cards, if you'd been like, hold on, there's a story, because this was an accident, that would have been a solid icebreaker. Like,
oh yeah. No. You and I've talked about this when we've like been at events and stuff like that. The whole idea of the best icebreaker, the best PR move you can make is if you fuck up, just own it and move along with it.
Yeah, depends. There's a few that you should probably just stop entirely. Like, at a certain point, you're just done. Like, oh, never mind. Like, there are certain PR moves where it's like, all right, I'm just gonna start putting stuff in the box. Like, see you guys later. Like, good luck with the game. Like, I'm out. Luckily, I've never been at the helm of anything close to that ever. But ooh.
We've talked about this. Like, I want to move into the PR field, so I always think to myself, like, how would I handle? Like, I look at the really big mess ups, the really big screw ups a lot of places do, and I'll always look at those and be like, how would I have personally handled this? And sometimes I have a really good answer, and other times I'm like, I'm glad I'm not employed there.
Yeah.
We're actually going to talk about some really big screw ups a little bit later in the show because
we got a good week.
It's been just a hell of a weekend because like I had a plan. Like we did the show last Tuesday with Angelina from Exoto Games, and literally as soon as that episode ended, I had an idea for this week's show, and it was just like a simple topic. It was something related to just games that you absolutely love that you can't. I think it was like games you absolutely love that you couldn't possibly imagine playing ever again, kind of thing. It was something like just really simple like that, just some like a jumping off point kind of topic, and then it just like things just started unfolding. Like
then the internet happened.
Then like I think it was Thursday we have Ninja moving to Mixer, which has like massive repercussions for the entirety of the video game industry. People are like, that only affects like streaming on Mixer and Twitch. It's like, nope, that actually really like has some wide scope stuff, which we're gonna get into. And then more crazy crap with the Epic Games Store happened, and then over the weekend the ESA more or less leaked 2,000 journalists' information.
Yeah, they did.
And it's like Hunter had like said he wanted to come on the show to talk about the Ninja stuff on like Friday. I never didn't get back to you until like yesterday or like late Sunday, I think. I don't remember exactly, because there was just so much going on that I couldn't keep my head above water trying to keep up with the information.
Yeah, it's been like just a stream of ridiculous, like just specifically in the gaming space, right? Like the whole internet is always on fire right now, just all the time, nonstop. Yeah. But in our sub community, it's just been like, wow, okay, that happened. Oh, okay. Like it's just been like a week of like, all right.
Yeah, and we're not even getting into the fact that apparently over the weekend, video games and the video game companies became public enemy number one against the United States.
We did it
again. Yay!
Sorry.
We're not even getting into that because that is a whole hotbed of a thing that I think we've even talked about on the show a few times. So it's like just you know our feelings on that. It's kind
you know what it is it's because everything that was in the 90s is cool again, and so now they have to bring back like demonizing video games for violence, because that's a very 90s topic, right? Like we gotta
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just okay. We're a little bit into that. I mean, it's just the fact that video games has been on again, off again. The villain, the comics were the villain. Punk D&D, rock was the villain. Yep. Metal was the villain. D&D was the villain. Jazz music, once upon a time, was the villain.
Right.
Like I mean, we can go back through the whole entirety of the 1900s and find different villains in pop culture, but you can probably go back to the Dark Ages and still find the villains every 50 to 100 years of popular mediums.
There's definitely a quote. There's a quote somewhere where it's like an academic complaining about students like not having the patience to like study properly anymore, and they're talking about like people using paper and not having the like ability to use like writing slates, and it was just like cool. It's always been a thing. It's not like
the older generations complain about the newer things or the newer generation stuff like that. It's just now with the mass media of the internet and just the exposure to everything in the entire universe at our fingertips, it's just now louder, essentially, people's hatred of things for illogical reasons.
Yeah. How dare that thing I don't understand and or like exist?
It's yeah. I mean, look, an angry youth once upon, so I was laughing about our chat. As a youth once upon a time who had a strict rule of thumb was, oh, that's popular, fuck it.
Right,
Like,
which of course I did, and I regret a lot, right? Because I missed out on some things that were actually all right, and it took a really long time to come back around and be like, oh, I was just being like stubborn for no good reason.
yeah, no, I look back on a lot of my hatred things. Like I had a huge, child of the '90s, grew up in the born in the mid '80s, so like I obviously hated boy bands because that was the popular thing when I was in middle school through early high school. And like now I look back, I'm like, I really like Backstreet Boys. And I'm like, why did I hate them at that time? It's not my personal style of music, but like it's good background stuff. And I really
sure
could have
exists.
I could have enjoyed stuff and I was like in the late 90s, I could have enjoyed stuff and probably gotten a girlfriend earlier.
Right, well, you could have, yeah, that's true. You could have had more in common. That's always a good go-to.
So but let's talk about one of our main topics. One of the main things, the reason why you volunteered to come on the show for this particular thing was Ninja announced late last week out of the blue that he was moving actually on August 1st. I remember this very keenly. He's moving from Twitch to Mixer. I remember August 1st because I opened up my phone at like 8 a.m. or whatever it happened. I was getting the kids ready for school and I'm like, wait, is it April 1st? Because I legitimately thought it was an April Fool's joke.
Sure.
Like because and it confused the crap out of me for a second, but announced he was moving. And yeah, so essentially regardless of opinions, I'm not a fan of the guy. I've said this many times before. I'm not a fan of a lot of his views and a lot of things he said. But
we're going to have to deep dive on that one because, yep.
There's a reason why anytime Ninja does something, I always remark with the same generic joke of, but there's women who work there.
Right.
Because, that was my response when he announced he's moving the Mixer, and Justin's response when he's moving the Mixer. We both had the same joke at the same time, which was... but there's female streamers on Mixer. What's he gonna do about that? But so he announced he's moving. And yeah, the assumption is the guy is gonna probably go back to his roots as a Halo person. He's gonna be the face of Microsoft, specifically with with Halo and things like that, not just Fortnite. And what I wanted to talk about is a few things related to this. One, the fact that he is kind of changed the game, turned Mixer into a place where you move to, and it was kind of a joke to move to Mixer. He's kind of changed the viewpoint of what Mixer is to the streaming community. Then there's also the topic of just like how people are now interpreting this and how they're following this entire transition of things.
One of the first things you saw a ton of people talk about, like the minute it got announced, was like, oh, like that he was like in some way betraying Twitch because like he owed something to them for helping create and it was like, wait, they had a mutually beneficial business like thing going. Like, what?
I mean, you have to assume that Microsoft offered him X amount of money, and he said to Twitch, oh, I would like X amount of money from you.
I can't imagine he didn't like talk to them about it. That'd be insane, right? Because like, what if they countered with more? It's not like both of these giant companies couldn't afford to pay whatever. Like,
it's like, oh, I get a bunch of money and I can stop playing Fortnite.
Yeah, to be fair, that may have also been an impetus for him to move. Not that he's really stopped so far, but he's only had one stream at this point.
It is cool though if he positions himself to transition into something that's like maybe a little more evergreen for him, or just like returning to his own roots, right? Like Fortnite won't last forever. I mean, it will last probably longer than it seems like it would.
There was some article
Minecraft.
earlier. There was some article earlier today that said that Fortnite's no longer a battle royale, which is funny because they tried to avoid being called a battle royale for so long. Right. But that it's no longer a battle royale. It's literally its own entire platform. So, I still feel like Fortnite's going to be one of those things that's just around for a while, whether it's the cultural resonance or not. I mean, Ninja is part of what I think honestly brought it. It was popular. Let's be clear here. He didn't create Fortnite, but like he brought one thing I will benefit with, he brought a lot of attention to the definitely. Game as a platform for others.
It's just frustrating to see any one thing dominate for too long, because if it sticks around long enough, you see more copying than iterating, right? Like it Fortnite came out of nowhere relative to like the original game type that they had, right? Like when's the last time anyone talked about the PvE version of Fortnite, right?
Legitimately, does Save the World still exist? Because that's
I couldn't tell you.
I have no idea.
Do you remember when Brad tried to get us to play Fortnite?
Do you remember when Brad convinced me to buy the I think it was like the silver level game. The logic behind it was it came with several copies of the lowest class of the game, and to give it to to sell it to the rest of the team members at a reduced rate, which I did, and we filmed one Let's Play in that I don't think we ever released because it was bad.
That is before Battle Royale Fortnite.
That was about 6 weeks before it launched, if I remember right.
I remember being at the PAX when they launched the Battle Royale version and being like, that's not going to work.
I mean, I can double back. Yeah, no, I mean, I could double back to when they announced Fortnite was finally coming out after so many years after Epic announced it, and being like, well, this game's going to be just a massive bomb. There's no press around or anything, and hey, you know what? I'm usually good with my marketing stuff. I'm usually good with my understanding how this business works, but that was, I was so off on that.
Yeah. And now they're to the point now, which just keeps them going, is that they have brought their barrier of entry to hit download. Yeah, it's like, no matter what device you have, just download. It's fine. PlayStation,
that's true.
iPhone.
And it's crossplay too, which is nuts, right? Like, I mean, some of the cool things about what they've done with that Fortnite money that everybody gets mad at them for throwing around, right, is that they're in the process of opening up the ability to use their matchmaking and server systems to like independent games. So like our studio, for instance, that'd be awesome because like when you're small like we are, when you want to have a multiplayer element in your game, you usually have to code each version to run on the multiplayer servers of each platform, right? Like, so if you play on Nintendo, you can play with other people who have Nintendo. If you play on PlayStation, you can play with PlayStation. On PC, you can play with PC, but they don't interconnect because we don't run servers because we are 10 people, most of which are in Quebec. Like, we're not that big. We don't have giant servers to run. So like Epic allowing people to use that backbone, which like clearly works pretty well, is going to be a really big deal.
No, it would definitely be cool to see how that opens up. Circling back to the Ninja aspect of things. So he's made his move. People have been asking me because I've been on Mixer for about almost 18 months now, give or take, even including downtime. People are asking like how I feel as a very small streamer on here, and whether it's my personal brand or constantly calibrating, how I feel about some major person coming on here. And it's like, look, you ask me as Josh, just me, I am annoyed because I just don't particularly like the guy and I don't like some of his views. But you ask me as a business owner, a business runner, a marketer, or a PR person, I think it's literally the best thing that could ever happen to Mixer. Because even if there's now a deluge of people like ninja imitators and just people from Twitch who are just trying to just explore now the other options, moving, even if they're all moving over here, that's just more eyes on this platform. Because the biggest problem Mixer has is if you are not Fortnite or whatever the big multiplayer action game is of this week, nobody watches your streams. You could, I could play almost anything I want on Twitch, stream podcasts, do anything on Twitch, and I'm gonna probably get 5 to 15 viewers. It maybe as long as I'm being mildly entertaining, people will probably roll in if I know how to market myself. On Mixer, people weren't gonna go on Mixer in the first place because, well, I have a Twitch account. Why would I want a Microsoft account? Kind of thing. And that whole mindset, which is one of the things I actually wanted to talk about, because one of the biggest things for me as a Mixer streamer, people are always like, well, I don't want to make a Mixer account, I already have a Twitch thing. Ninja's moved over, and now suddenly everyone is of the mindset of, oh, that's so good for him, I'm going to make this account on this other platform with 0 complaints now.
I mean, there's that like social study, right, where like it's funny because I saw a really good video explain it one time, and it was an analogy of it's this one guy dancing on a hillside at a concert, just dancing like a total weirdo, but having a good time all by himself, and he's just doing it for a certain amount of time, and you can see everyone in the crowd like watching him awkwardly until the first guy gets up to join him. And then it's two guys dancing, kind of weird. But the first guy shows the second guy like, no, check out. This is the move, right? And then that second guy starts emulating him. Then a few of that dude's friends come. And then it becomes a large enough group that you can watch the turning point in that interaction. This is all in just like one real-time unscripted clip. It's just like a super interesting thing because that's exactly how things work, right? Which is to be the first, you have to be willing to just stand out there and like be the weirdo. So like really early adopters of Mixer had to be willing to just go there with no promise of like a built-in audience. Then some people came after seeing like, hey, you know what, this platform works better because like other, you know, fairly large medium level streamers, partnered streamers have left Twitch to come to Mixer. Like this isn't the first. This is just the biggest, right? Like this is such a huge high profile person. This is almost what I would consider to be the beginning of like, that crowd running in.
It's the headliner.
Right.
Switcher platforms.
Yeah, and them doing that, like, I would be interesting, like, I think, you know, people are going to watch it, but, like, as a marketer, as a PR guy, like, I'm interested to see, because as of right now, Mixer has been less of a useful platform for me for various reasons to, like, watch, because it's not Twitch, like, there are less third-party tools for gathering metrics on streaming, right? So, like, my time is, like, crazy limited, and I want to support literally almost every streamer who wants to work with us. It's like, yeah, if you're engaged with your community, like, numbers don't matter that much. It's just hard for me to track, like, how often do you stream? If I can't manually do all that stuff, so the lack of, like, tools make it difficult. And, like, that's a shame for Mixer partners and Mixer streamers, because, like, I think that we as marketers want to work with everybody. Like, and like, I mean, I guess that's just me, right? I'm an indie. So like, I want to work with anyone who is engaged with their community. I think that if someone's on Mixer, they're probably more likely to be engaging with that community because they're not going for the easy platform, right? Like Twitch is the easier built-in like user base. So if you're on Mixer for a reason, I would assume that you're not just doing that for like, they're both free, right? There's no...
Sure.
So if you're there, there's a reason. So I'm interested to see if this is the beginning of that floodgate opening of like, are they going to become legitimate competitors now as opposed to like VHS and Betamax, which is ironic, right? Because Betamax was better and like VHS just won because of marketing.
Pretty much.
Because of porn too, but yes.
Yes, you're right. Okay, hold on. Let me rewind. You're 1,000% right. Whichever one the porn industry backs wins. I'm not sure that applies here yet. But
no, wait.
I mean, if you ask the not the best sourced IGN article on Mixer's clothing things, then yes, maybe that actually might still be. There was an article that went out where they complained a lot about Mixer has very strict like clothing rules for different age groups you stream at, but without actually saying that female streamers were mad about it, without actually checking with female streamers who were actually streaming on the platform, only talking to people who, you know, seeing the complaints on Twitter about it that were, again, based on people who've never actually been on Mixer but are now just suddenly exposed to all of their rule sets.
Yeah,
so.
That's what you get, right? Right now, the internet's favorite thing is not caring about something until there's a reason to be mad at it. Like, that was like when, like we would talk about it later, but you know, like the whole thing with ooblets, right? Like so many people who probably didn't know what ooblets was immediately became mad at them. They're like, this game I didn't know about is infuriating to me and I hate you now.
And then everybody else is like, oh yeah, ooblets, that's supposed to be something.
Yeah, and like me as an indie, I was like, oh cool, they were struggling for like paying their bills and they don't like have to starve now? That's neat. Like, I take it kind of personally when people are like, you make the game and you don't get to pay rent because I said so. But sorry, like we need food. There's no guaranteed income during development. Like,
well, I mean, let's transition on to that here. So, I mean, we got fair moments here.
One last thing. Am I the only one who's looking at this Ninja Jumps to Mixer thing, thinking about the heyday of wrestling? WWF versus WCW.
If only they would have that kind of theatrically antagonistic relationship.
If Mixer still had like just Lightstream going and Twitch didn't have caught up yet, which they finally do, it'd be great if they're just tuning into popular streams and just reporting what's happening before it happens. It's like, since we have Lightspeed, let me tell you who just won this tournament. There you go. You don't need to go watch it.
It always, I think that's what streaming is missing, is the theatricality of wrestling. This is a rant that I've had many times, which is I'd be super down. No. I'd be super, super down to watch like an esports event where like part of it is scripted, where it's like, oh my gosh, he came in from the outside and took out their jungler, and he just like breaks the monitor like mid-match. Pyro explosions.
I just want to see someone do like a giant axe kick through someone's monitor, like in the middle of a Rainbow Six Siege match or some shit like that.
That's exactly what I want.
No, because you have, I don't know teams in esports very well, but like you have team 1 versus team 2, and they're literally, it's known that they're down a man, down a person, and then just this random person from another famous team who's fairly signed with them just comes on and kicks the opposing thing. You think they're joining the I just like, give me some theatricality. I agree with you like 100%, because whenever some of the actual real moment theatrics happen is actually when I enjoy esports more. But again, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan.
Tried with the League of Heels, aka Paxomania, aka...
One of these days they're going to invite me, I swear. Like, I want it so bad. Like, come on, I work in PR and I like wrestling. Come on. Like, what do I got to do here?
You'd be good for that.
No.
Yeah, I heal real good. I'm a real good heel. I'm not very good at being a face, but, you know. I joke about that all the time, because watching an esports event, like, those moments in-game, like, are amazing. But when you brought up the idea of the, like, old school, like, WCW and WO, like, rivalry stuff, wouldn't it be awesome though to have like events where it's like, where they're just like, oh yeah, our competition doesn't have what it takes, like just bring in and out of mic and get like a Mean Gene analog in and just like rip
shade has been thrown. It's like, why is that streamer getting up?
Right.
And then all of a sudden top leaders is playing, you see a chair come behind him. Oh, he got the chair
got the DX Racer from behind, just like it's event sponsorship. We've got everything here. Look, this is free money. We're printing money for other people.
Knock the Razer headset right off his head.
Oh no, the BenQ is malfunctioning. He's been black bagged. Like,
I just have this image.
Quick, someone give him some G Fuel. Pick him back up.
There's nice incorporation of the sponsor moment required for all esports.
It'd be really good though. It's so natural.
It's so perfect. I just have this image now of like some just top esports person. I like getting Shawn Michaels like WrestleMania on the line, just down to the computers and just shedding all of this stuff, and then just sitting down with like, you know, their shirt off and in like these tight pants, just playing Fortnite or some shit.
No, it's like when you were like, oh no, it looks like Team Liquid's gonna have to play a member down. What's that? And then like a music swell, then confetti cannons from the like walk-in ramp. And it's like, oh, like, remember Fatality? Like the guy who like MTV's True Life I'm a Gamer. He just comes out like, Fatality has returned from retirement. Like a briefcase, like in a handcuff to him for some reason. Maybe it's his own mouse. He like opens it, pulls out his own mouse, plugs it in.
He pulls out his own Corsair sponsored rig.
Right.
They're going against Cloud9. They get, who's coming to help him? It gets Cloud9. Shroud, he's just he's betrayed Cloud9.
So long story short, I just have this image of Ninja, what he should have done when he moved to Mixer, and just had the
YouTube channel.
Well, you might, but have the Alundra Blaze moment where like Twitch doesn't have a title necessarily, but some Twitch memorabilia he just drops in the trash behind like Stein and Andy Salisbury on their show.
Oh man, that's brutal.
See, again, I need more theatrics in my streaming and esports content is what I'm getting at. People, I don't know, we somehow got on this and I'm loving it.
We have to do it.
You're welcome. This is what I bring to most shows is wrestling and gaming related tangents. And if I can make them do this, that's perfect. Because all I do is think about how to sell stuff and how awesome wrestling lore is.
I mean, I think that's a good combination of things. Actually,
wrestling lore goes with anything, and I've learned this from Giant Bong, Jeff Gerstmann, and Dan Reichert, as they have a podcast that is their telling of Dragon Ball Z as they watch the episodes. But most of the stuff, like 90% of it, they related to like 90s wrestling.
All of that's great. I'm way. I mean,
you got to do what you got to do.
To like it's like Vegeta's a heel, right? And like the it's like, oh yeah, it just Cell took a hit, no selled it, like just nothing but wrestling terms the whole way trying to explain it. I'm like, yeah, nice.
It's wonderful. I was thinking also just speaking of like the marketing side of things. Actually, we were about to talk about Ooblets and Epic Game Store, but first, I was thinking something just like mixed Mixer or Ninja just announced, like, I think like a couple of hours ago, holy shit, like I have 1 million subscribers
I just saw that, yep.
on Mixer. And I thought that's probably like 900,000. I don't really know for a fact, but like 900,000 more than like the next highest person ever has had on Mixer, if not more. I don't know exactly what the numbers are. Because again, their stats are hard to track for literally anything. But my thing was like, I'm looking at this from a marketing perspective because most people know you can get a free subscription. Every person gets a free subscription to Ninja on Mixer for 2 months. So I look at this, I'm like, this is just like such great marketing because he's just going to keep racking up these subscribers, which is a metric, that's going to become so meaningless. But as soon as that 2 months is up, how the percentage of people who are going to stick around because I was in the first 1 million subscribers to Ninja is, and not just because they're a fan of him, but specifically because they were in the first mill.
Especially if they find some way to do like, special custom emotes or, et cetera, et cetera. You got to give those gamers their shinies, man.
Oh no! If they do, they're gonna probably do. I wouldn't be surprised. So you get 2 months free if they like the third month. If you continue your subscription into a paid subscription, we'll give you like it's kind of like people who subscribed to Mixer back when it was Beam. Not subscribe, but like had an account.
Right.
They permanently are listed as a Beam member somewhere in one of their buttons or something like that.
I have it.
Yeah, you have.
Nice.
I have literally 2 Mixer accounts, ConCal Pod and Bear Punch. Neither has it. But something like that, but it's, one of those, it's like I was one of the first subscribers to Ninja. They're going to probably do something like that.
Like that is the most genius way to convert an audience over to a new platform. It's like, y'all just come over, free subscription.
Right, yeah, don't even worry about it. Don't even.
And why here, check out some other stuff too. Why not?
It's cool that they're doing that because I wondered when I saw the announcement and then that he moved over, I was like, hold on, if someone's paying for a subscription on Mixer, what happened if they'd already paid for the month on Twitch? Because it didn't.
They get a free Mixer one. Did they get it's kind of like the month that keeps going for free? It's an extension.
Well, I mean, no, it was a great way. It was a great way to curb the hatred against him for leaving Twitch. Absolutely.
Yeah, because no one can go like, I just paid on Twitch, now I gotta go pay on Mixer. No, like I don't see any of the. Have anybody argued like I just put a sub on Ninja or any big hoopla?
I'm sure if you look deep in the hashtags and stuff like that, there's plenty of people probably bitching about it, but
someone
nothing
on the internet's mad about something.
Exactly. But nothing is rising to the surface in any meaningful way.
No cream rising to the top.
No, but but certainly not like in the way again like with the Epic Games Store stuff that's been going on constantly. Which is one of the points Tundra you kind of made to me when we started talking about stuff is how people so readily were like, oh, a brand new platform to watch my streams on. For the most part, we're just like, sure, that's fine.
Yeah,
a brand new platform to play video games on?
I hate it. Burn it down. Yeah. Well, like, it's, what was it? I can't remember who mentioned it on Twitter when I saw it, and they encapsulated the thought perfectly, which is like, Ninja, like, hey guys, I'm streaming on a new platform. And they're like, wow, what a great move for Ninja. And competition is great. And it's like small developers like, hey, we're going to the Epic Games Store. And it's like, burn your house down. How dare you? Like,
I mean, that's kind of like what it's been. It's the mindsets of people and what they value and how they value stuff is honestly fascinating. I really, by the way, I'm looking forward to in about 10 to 50 years when like case studies and stuff, like psychology studies start coming out about, the gamer movement of things. And like
when they look back on us, yeah, oof. we're not gonna look great, I don't think.
As a whole, God, no.
No.
But like, I'm just really looking forward to seeing like what people are gonna find, like the people who look back and just start doing the research and being like, so this was the cause problem of the gamer wars of 2027 kind of thing. By the way, I think I'm overstretching that. It's probably like next year.
I was going to say, you're giving it a long time. I think you were going to hit...
No. It's nothing in history. It's like, and after the console wars, the great platform wars have started.
Yep.
Oh God, that really is what it is, isn't it? We've gone from Nintendo versus
the platform wars has very much.
It's like it's from Nintendo versus Sega to Xbox versus PlayStation to now it's it's Steam versus Epic, which is so weird because there's been 100 other options other than Steam for so long.
Well, what's weird too is like I was talking to another friend who like we're all of an age and like he's roughly our age too, and I was like, one of the things that it wouldn't occur to me to get mad about is exclusives, because I remember playing exclusive games when those were just called games. Like, can't really play Zelda on Xbox, right? Still, like, it's not a thing. Like,
but
why is that?
You got a mentality. It's like, well, I got PC. I can play anything. I can find a way.
Right.
Well, that's the problem of it. I think that's what's kind of
I'm not making fun on PC players. I'm a main PC player, but still the same.
Same. I'm mainly a PC player person as well, but like I think that's part of the thing is PC gaming has been Steam and other platforms for so long, but everything's still 99.5% of things still ended up on Steam. The only stuff that really didn't was the stuff that were super tiny indie or game jam stuff that might be on itch.io or something like that and just never make its way. It might never make its way to Steam because they were literally, that wasn't the goal of that developer. They were making just something so
besides
tiny.
People that had straight up standalone installers for it that did not incorporate Steam, these are like more games as a service type games. I mean, kind of started with EA splitting off and nobody cared.
Well, there's Blizzard, right? Blizzard did it on their own for a long time.
Blizzard did it?
Blizzard had their own launcher.
Be to start there.
They're one of the earliest.
I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Blizzard was utilizing like BitTorrent clients to mass distribute updates for WoW instead of like just have their servers churn. Like that's why they did their launcher the way they did in the first place, really, right? So
I'm thinking like Ubisoft. That's like a half step. It's like, oh yeah, we got our own thing. I mean, you can still get it in Steam. You still have to install Uplay, by the way.
Yep, I remember when I got Blood Dragon, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Oh, jeez. But I'm just like thinking about so just be clear with Epic Games Store, there are we're not saying there's not reasons to not like it, because Dan Nichols of Adult Swim Games earlier asked like, what's the issue with Adult Swim Games, and I think it was Maple Thistle's Steph of Evolve PR responded to him and made a comment that like there's some people who have issues that other currencies aren't available, for instance.
Right, that's a true one. That's a big problem.
That's a problem. There's a few other issues. The thing is,
just other general services that you would find on platforms like Steam like that are already established aren't there yet.
Right.
Yep, there's some other stuff. I do know cloud saves are coming because I got a non-embargoed thing related to that like a couple days ago.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that's missing is definitely coming, but also you got a lot of these people who are angry and like don't remember. Like my Steam account is like 12 years old because I used to play Counter-Strike like competitively, and you had to like that, right? Like we were the guinea pigs where they were like, would you like to update Counter-Strike? You have to install Steam. And you're like, what is Steam? Why do I need this? And it did not work. It was not good.
Oh yeah. I refused to be on Steam for a long time. I used to go to a game design college, and I remember like the first couple of years of Steam, which was when I was at that school, people were always talking about it with like the most disdain in their voice, followed by "but you gotta download it," kind of thing. And I'm like,
I have the disc. Why do I have to download it?
And I was just like, no, I'm not gonna get Steam. Steam is not gonna be a thing. Why would I want to get Steam? Because again, I'm a genius when it comes to forward thinking. Back then, nailed it in one. But yeah, so. It's kind of, and now it's become so ubiquitous with PC gaming. But to be clear with the Epic Game thing, I agree that I feel with a lot of people there are natural good grievances to have against Epic Games Store. There's a lot more stuff. The problem is the people who are, let's say, going after Ooblets,
right,
are not among the people with those solid grievances. They are just people who have been told by X platform or X people or Y people that they need to hate Epic Games Store and everything it stands for.
It starts to sound like, not to get crazy political, but it starts to sound like people repeating like political talking points, right? Like when you like talk to somebody about their politics, and then you can tell that like you ask them how they feel about X and they say a thing and you're like, okay, but like, can you elaborate on that point beyond just like the bumper sticker version that you just said? And the answer is no, right? Because like they want a result, but they don't actually have like a well-reasoned thought, right? Like you're saying, they're adopting other people's thoughts, right? Like someone whose opinion they care about or like want to emulate told them to hate this thing. And so the talking points become, oh, it's anti-consumerist, or, it's like, no, it's not. It's not at all. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can dislike it. You can feel like as a consumer, you don't like how it's being handled or something, but like, it's not, like the market does not owe you the things that it sells. Like, that's not really actually how capitalism works. Like, I'm a marketer, so I spend all day thinking about trying to get people to not only want to buy our stuff, but feel like having bought it was worth doing. Cause like then you have a good ongoing relationship. I'd never want to trick anybody into buying our video games. I'd rather, if someone like doesn't like our game, like don't buy our game. Cause like, I don't want you to be mad at us. We made a game we thought people would like. And like, luckily enough, a lot of people did, but like we would never trick somebody or whatever. But like if Epic Games offers an indie studio the money that would be like, hey, if you don't sell up to this base amount, like, we'll cover you and you won't have to sell your house. Like, why would you not take that if it's something that you're concerned about, right? Like, that's such a weird, like, disconnect between, like, so many people who have, like, day jobs, right? Where they get mad at game developers for wanting some sort of guaranteed payment or so just, like, some sort of stability, which is, like, so hard to get as a game dev if you're indie. Like, they get mad at them. But, like, at the same time, like, if that person went to work and someone was like, oh, yeah, your paycheck's just not here, they'd freak out, where it's like, well, a lot of us work on games with no guaranteed income for a long, long time. And like Ooblets is just a tiny team. Like, what are they supposed to do if they run out of capital? Just starve to death? Like, what do you stop making Ooblets? Like, what are the options there really?
I think that's just a flaw with this, just the game industry as a whole, is that people don't understand, one, how difficult game development is. And they believe game development is, and to be clear, they believe like all artists deserve to be paid, but they believe game development is just like some light art thing for some reason.
It's like, which it's not, right? Like it's the same amount of effort would go into like, oh, I'm going to hard code like a medical licensing database or a video game. And you're like, guess which one's going to make way more money? One of them's going to make millions of dollars, and one of them's going to have people send you death threats because you sold it on the Epic Games Store.
Exactly. So there's just like this whole disconnect about how game development works is what we're kind of like stuck in this whole cycle. So people are just like, oh, you want to get paid for your art, but you're just drawing some shitty drawings on, in your notebook in after school one day. As someone who
went to school for commercial photography, I feel that real hard when they're like, so how much do you charge? And now I don't even shoot anymore for money, but back in the day, I eventually got to where I was like, let's just save time and assume that if you're asking me, you probably are too worried about what I cost to afford me. So I'm good, like, and they're like, but photos aren't that hard. And I'm like, yeah. See, I do it quick now because of the 10 years I spent getting good. You're not paying for the 30 minutes now. You're paying for the 10 years. Like,
you're paying for you're essentially paying to offset the education I got to get to this point that I could actually do this thing in a reasonable amount of time. Also, as a photographer as well, it's like, it also, even though I'm really fast doing this, it still takes a lot of freaking work. If any person could take photos, then your wife or husband or best friend would just be taking a photo of you and you wouldn't come to me.
Well, like good photographers and good snipers get paid more for the same reason, right? Because it takes less shots.
And that's the show.
All right, see ya. Bye. That's been my go-to explanation, which, because when people are like, well, why are you only giving me 30? I'm like, well, I'm giving you 30 perfect photos. Like, you don't need 500 bad ones. There's no point in that. Why would you do that? My 30 are great. Trust me. Like, this is a great deal.
As someone whose wedding album, my my raw, like they were edited, but my raw photo is not part of the actual official album, just on the disc. For a wedding was 2,700 pictures.
Why? What?
And then literally, when we looked at every picture, and we spent like 6 hours, I think, sitting, and it got to the point where there would be just a stream of 30 pictures where I'm like,
you can't tell, right? Because you just like machine gunned through them.
This one's a little blurrier, this one's that one, so that one I can sort of see somebody flipping someone else. No, there's part of someone's ass. Why is someone's ass out at the wedding? Like there were like moments of like those little itty bitty things. It was Justin's ass, to be clear.
Well, that's the difference between like ability to do a thing and artistry. So like to loop it back to video games, right? Like being good at a thing is not the ability on a good day where you feel good to do that thing well. It's the ability to day in and day out deliver consistently good effort in like some sort of creative capacity. Like a person who can take a beautiful landscape photo one day out of the year that's better than a photo I can take isn't really a threat to me if what I can do is I can deliver an 8 out of 10 photo on the worst day I've had, right? Like people don't want to buy and the games are like that too, right? There are some people who've put out some like amazing games, but then like their consistency is just not there, or like they don't deliver things on time, or like, you know, like Fez is like people can hate on Phil Fish all they want. Fez is a really interesting game. That dude is like crazy into detail. Like he explains in that documentary about how he was like, yeah, I thought like the rock textures were weird, so like I redid all of them by hand. And you're like, why? Like, like, oh my gosh. And like, that's cool and all, but do you like, it's going to be hard to say whether or not that made that game any better, right?
Yeah, that's the questionable thing. Like, does any of this make a game better? Does any of these things? Because we've seen games that, at least on paper, appear to be just almost nothing. You know what I mean? Like, just such bare bones video games become these monster successes, and other games where there's hundreds of $1 million and countless hours and people nearly dying making the game that don't even make back barely a percent of what. Was created, so it's always the question.
You can just say SWOTOR, man. You can just say SWOTOR. It's okay. We all know.
Fuck you. I love SWOTOR. How dare you? It's totally true. But I love SWOTOR. How dare you?
Hey, look, SWOTOR could have been such a good single player game. It would have been just so. It would have been
Hunter. It is a good single player game. It just happens to have other people.
Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate those other people being there.
It's like it's a phenomenal single player game. It's just for some reason there's a multiplayer component.
You know, you can pretend like those people aren't real, like you're playing Dot Hack. Like those are all NPCs too. You're like, they're not real. These are all also NPCs.
Well, their crowds are poorly coded. They're just running in random directions.
Why is that guy just bunny hopping in next to the NPC for an hour?
Why'd they code this random NPC to just stand on top of a mailbox so I can't click on it for 5 minutes? But
Where's
but like
NPC's pants?
So going back to the Epic Games Store side of things, so the Ooblets thing we've been kind of dancing around. So just for people's information, the developers of
I need to talk to people on the Microsoft side who get bought up, or not bought up, it's not the word, but acquired by Microsoft. Like, I don't see as much mass hate for those as I do for like Epic Games Store,
or EA buying something either, for that matter. No, EA is understandable, but I'm just saying there was a time when Microsoft buying a game studio was a death sentence for that as well. It wasn't just when there was a time when Microsoft was the big evil, but the thing is, even though Microsoft's tactics towards buying indie studios has gotten better. It's still, even though their tactics have gotten better, they're still a gigantic corporate entity. So why is one corporate entity better than another corporate entity? I mean, branding, of course.
A big one is that when Microsoft acquired Minecraft from Mojang, like a lot of what they did, like Mojang is still an independent, like it's still a company, right? Like, I mean, when I in my previous life, I worked for Jinx, the clothing company, and we were partners with Mojang. And like when it was an independently owned company, like it was smaller and didn't have like the, administrative background that like Microsoft was able to bring in. So after Microsoft came in, like development on Minecraft has, been steady ever since. Like they have just kept going and going and going until it's like a totally different game.
Yeah. And even like bringing in recently, like Double Fine with Tim Schafer and everybody.
Right.
Hats off to Tim Schafer for just being blunt about it, even though he's doing it in a very comedic way. But he's just like, they gave us money, and it's great not to worry about, are my employees going to be able to feed their families? It's great not to worry about letting anybody go. It's great that we could just focus on making the game, and I don't have to worry about publishing. I don't have to worry about all this other crap that kills us.
It's logistics, man. From the inside, right? Like logistics are crazy. Like, there's so many things that go into making and marketing a game. And if you're in it, like the biggest one is like something as small as something that no one even thinks about. Attending PAX for a small team is insane. It's absolutely insane because like the amount of money you would have to pay to show up to like a turnkey booth where like you just go and there's a booth there is outside of the range of studios much bigger than you'd even assume. You know, like we would never do that. We have to do it all ourselves, and we're like a pretty good studio. Like we're not doing that bad, and we still have to be like, all right, do we go buy like used IKEA furniture or something for the booth because it costs, like a con center will charge you $85 a day for a folding chair. Like it's just insane, you know. And
I've seen those lists.
You've seen the con?
Additional phone.
Yeah.
I've seen the con thing for like PAX and stuff like that. But there's the like Phoenix Comic-Con, just like the local thing for here, which is, yes, a bigger event, but still, I remember I was like, I'm going to get Constant Calibrating just a table in like the Artist Alley a couple of years ago, because I thought it'll just be me there.
Be so easy, right?
I don't film a lot of interviews at this event, so it's really just me lurking around. So I'll do this. I'll hire a couple of friends with free food for the weekend, and which they'll be probably fine with, and that way I can wander the event as needed. But this way I'll just have like the few guests I get interviews with come to our booth, and it'll be so simple. And then I looked up how much a table in the Artist Alley was, and I'm like, and it was like $700 for a folding table and one chair, and it was another $100 for another folding chair. Can I bring my own chair? Sure, that's $75.
Right. My favorite is, depending on the convention center, that like, so a lot of the rules about how you can set your booth up or can't are dictated by the Teamsters union at each event, if there is one, or the event staffing. And so like the one that's like the most notorious rule is you have to be able to build everything in your booth without power tools with no more than 2 people. So like if you have like a big booth or whatever, you have to use union labor if it takes more than 2 people to do, or a power tool, or anything with wheels. You have to be able to hand carry in every single part of your booth.
And this has me thinking, how much do contortionists cost to rent? Can they be my table and chairs and just everything?
That's why it's a shame at the end of PAX. Like if you happen to live in the city where a PAX is at, if you've ever wanted some IKEA furniture, if you see a booth with IKEA furniture, you should ask them if they're keeping it, because the answer is maybe not.
Like, not only that, or like all the ones that like have like a ton of gaming chairs that get donated or let someone borrow, that like they're like, I don't want to take this home.
Yeah, yeah. DX Racer, like giving people chairs. Like I see them get raffled off at the end of events a lot, because like it costs so much to ship. Like it's crazy.
Oh, they'll always raffle off chairs for DX Racers and all the other companies, because it's mind-numbing. I remember after PAX East, Tara Bruno was helping run the booth for what's that new Burnout game that's not Burnout? Shoot, I'm blanking on the game. There's one that just came out. Thank you. I think Dangerous Driving. And they had this giant, just massive, like the size of my wall back here, wall scroll, essentially. Beautiful thing. And Tara just says to me, she's like, "You're not local, right?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Do you want to like try to get this on a plane and take this home with you?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "Okay, I need someone to take this. What can I do?" Like, it's like she was like, and then she ended up making like a Twitter contest on their thing. It was like, "Hey, the first person to come to the booth and tell us, like, I think it was like some stupid, meaningless thing about the game got the thing." And one person came there and got very excited and got it. And then immediately, as soon as they won it, they looked at it and they were like, "What have I done?"
Right. Yeah, it's huge, right? They're like, "Oh, this will be fun." Oh, no.
I just want to, like, it's kind of like just like, you know, Scrooge on Christmas Day after his epiphany. He just burst open. It's like, "Pex, you little boy, you want this TV? It is yours." Just throw it at him.
I know. I think I was scored like a 50-inch ones.
We've sold TVs at the end of PAX before. We're like, "Do you want this TV?" And they're like, "Yeah." And we're like, "Make us an offer," because like we don't want to have to go like figure out what to do with it. Like it's, well, that's the crazy thing. Even electronics is way worse than like tables and chairs. Like it ends up costing thousands of dollars to rent TVs for PAX. Craziness.
Yeah. No, I've done. When filling out job applications, there's one that actually asked me, if it was an event planner thing, like, how would I, on a budget, put together a booth for one of these style of events? And I just started like doing research into the logistics. I already knew a lot, but like I started doing some real like in-depth research. And I was just like,
let us do that, and we'll advertise you. And it worked when I worked at GameStop for midnight releases.
Yes, I mean the GameStop midnight release thing, I can see that working.
Right.
But
dude, I got partnered. Like, this is why I probably need to get NPR. I had partnerships with Domino's, Pizza Hut, Rent-A-Center. Didn't charge us a thing.
Nice.
Got them to fully like fund it, give us food, and all we did is pass out some leaflets. I'm like, ha.
Right. So Justin, I'm PR. You are event management and PR.
Perfect.
Is what was I think what our new company, Constant Calibrating PR, apparently is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We keep
Action Federation.
We keep almost. I don't even know where.
We're so
I'm
close.
I'm still by. So close. I'm still on the contortionist table things, which for some reason just sounds like a Dave Oshry thing for Dusk. For some reason, I just feel.
Oh yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, he can't be stopped. It's okay. He's going to be in New Zealand. We're safe for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
No, doesn't mean anything. That just means he has the power of hobbit holes. That doesn't make any sense, but it does with Dave Oshry.
No, it means Dave is going to learn he's actually going to fund teleportation successfully. New Blood is actually going to discover teleportation just so he could be at more events.
Right. Right.
Is what we're actually going to have. But so getting back on the Ooblets thing, so they put out a post like a week or so ago, which was essentially boiling down. They wanted to make it clear because nobody had really tackled at that point why an indie dev would choose exclusivity on Epic. We knew, particularly the people in the industry knew, but it was a known thing, but there was not a known thing. And they came out forward, and the basis of the post was to state that they were offered, as you said, Hunter, a guarantee. Their game, if it does not make X amount of money on the Epic Games Store, they would still make money off of it. They would still make X amount of money, taking the pressure off of them so they could just focus on game development.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, isn't it like, hey, how much copies do you expect to sell to do okay? We will pay you for that many copies if you sell it or not.
Right.
So that kind of what it's like?
I think it's I think they get to assess how many copies they think you'll sell, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like a negotiation back and forth. And then they say like, okay, well, here's your minimum, which is funny because like one of the things that it's much harder to be, it's not coincidental that there are more Canadian indie developers than American indie developers. Like,
for sure.
And it's because Canada has an arts foundation that gives money to Canadian developers. Mm-hmm. And like, it's kind of structured in a similar way where if your game makes money, you pay your money back to the Canadian, like it's a loan. But if your game doesn't,
states that here that I forget where, but huge companies have offices in these states that no one will live in because the tax breaks they get just for having a business in that state. Like that's where they're established at.
Sure.
Like if you ask them, or like, hey, where are you based out of? I don't know.
Like Rhode Island has like every one is registered as a C Corp there or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's a lot of states, and a lot of not just states, but like cities in these states that are just the middle of nowhere, most backroads place, because that particular place just has some tax break or something like that that allows you to operate. Because again, game development, and I mean, entertainment in general, but game development especially, is a monstrously expensive thing. As someone who has considered just kind of creating my own visual novels or something like that, I'm like,
it blows people's minds when you tell them that like a moderately conservative game can spend like $500,000 to $700,000 in development with a team of like 5, like, you know. And it's funny because people get like really weird about it, right? And then you're like, well, let's assume that you pay yourself like a living wage salary of like, I don't know, let's call it $50,000 a year. I mean, I live in California and San Diego, so like that's like, I mean, you can live more comfortably somewhere else, but let's say you live somewhere
Arizona, that's fine.
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, and so let's say each of these devs makes $50,000 a year for 2 years and you have 5 members. That doesn't account for literally any other overhead than just paying them to live. Like, there you go. You've burned through hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, where's that money come from? Like,
yep. Well, there was like just not even game dev, like podcasting. There was 1 year where Constant Calibrating with sponsorships and stuff, like maybe year 2 or year 3. There was one point when I think the company pulled in a single year about like $5,000 or $6,000, and I thought like, holy crap, this is amazing with sponsorship, and then just a bunch of other things, like I was doing like paid articles and just a bunch of different stuff, and somebody's like, wow, like heard that, like, and I just was transparent about what we were making and stuff like that, and I just like posted, and someone's like, wow, it's so cool that you guys are making so much money. It's like, I literally like dispensed this to like the one of the other team members to like help them with something, like, and I like did a couple of cash break things, but honestly this barely covered like server hosting and everything else. And again, this was a fucking podcast network, like an actual game studio. Yes, you could still make games in your garage, you know, like the olden days, but you know, it's still just to afford to live, you better either have some crazy full-time job on the side and be working, you know, midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning on this shit for years, or you have a Kickstarter that, you raised $1 million for your 3-man team garage game.
Or you sell everything and hope for the best. That's what I've done.
Yeah.
That's such a shame that you have to do that, though, right? Like, that people would expect. They're like, oh, well, that they're angrier that you would take an exclusive and they have to install a launcher than for you to get to make your game. You'd have to, like, sell your possessions and remortgage your home. They're like, no, that's the reasonable one. So I don't have to install a second program.
It's fascinating because, like, for me, again, I was never, even though I've been, like, fans of a specific system, a console over another one, or fans of a specific platform over another one, like, at different points in my life for different things, I just have a mindset of, okay, option A, I get to play this game. Like, just using Ooblets as an example, I've been following Ooblets for a couple of years. Yeah, I get to play this game I've been following for a few years that seems really cute and really cool and has a cool vibe, or I don't. It's like, it's literally just, to me, it's like, it's just such a simple thing. Like, developer makes this deal and I get to play it. Yeah, I'm not a biggest fan of Epic Game Store, but I get to play it. Or they don't make the deal and it's gone, like a lot of games out there, which will spend, how many times have you seen a game on the AA or lower scale of, like, resources that just never, you read about it for 5-6 years.
I have a collection of t-shirts exclusively of games that got all the way to being promoted and shown at PAX and then never went anywhere. I have a box of them. Like, remember Dawngate? Yeah, Dawngate was done. They finished it. I played it. That game was finished. And they were like, nah, boosh.
Well, my big one is my probably my favorite shirt I own is for Smash and Grab, which was shown at PAX West 2016. That game made it to beta. That game made it, I think, 2 days into release before the entire company went out of business. It was shuttered completely, and like I'm the same way. I have so many shirts and so much
literally all of Telltale games. Oh, sick. Burn.
How does Robert Space Industry do it?
Because it's the same thing as Ninja getting 1 million subs. At this point, everyone has donated to that damn campaign in the entire game industry. At least put $1 into it at this point.
Star Citizen's coming out, right?
No.
There's one.
As someone who applied for a community manager job at that company, no, it's not.
It's the year 2045, and we believe that Star Citizen will come soon. Like,
it's I know, but like that's like but that's the nature of some game development things also, and that's a case of they've gotten so much money that their scope has exceeded their ability to actually finish a product.
Good old fashioned scope creep. Yeah,
I mean, that's a whole other topic that I could do. We could probably do a whole hour on scope creep.
Yeah, call me back. I have very strong thoughts about it.
I think we'll have you back for that one.
Ooblets, man. Like the whole thing is like they were super transparent about it. Mm-hmm. They followed the tone that all of their marketing had, which today the developer of Ooblets posted a follow-up on Medium explaining the whole situation and like posted like the kind of screenshots of what people have been saying to him. And like
I read every single one of those, and people get that, but
to keep it from being too explicit, people were like hoping that him and his wife were like murdered and like wishing them like to be like like burned alive and to drink bleach and calling them like ethnic slurs and stuff. All of that for saying like, hey, we're gonna move to the Epic Store. And the funniest part is it's a timed exclusive. It's a timed exclusive on the Epic Store, not a permanent exclusive.
Yeah. So if you were a person who really wanted to play the game and really is just insistent on only serving one corporate master with Steam, then the simple fact is, it's a year, I'm assuming? Probably, like a reasonable time period. And let's be honest, these same people who get really angry about anything are the exact same people who, as a marketer, are the ones who go, oh, your game looks good, I'll wait till it's on sale. Which, like, I get it, man. Not everybody has money. I'm not mad about it. But, like, I feel like the Venn diagram of people who would yell slurs and angry things at a developer on the internet and people who wait for games to go on sale are like this. It's just a complete circle. So, like, let's be real. They weren't going to buy it on launch, probably. They were never going to buy it on launch. They were never going to buy it in that thing. But here's the problem. Because the sale's not going to happen when it first launches on Steam, that means they, instead of waiting a year, 6 months to a year, they have to wait 2 years.
No, they won't, because these are the same people who are keeping G2A in business, too. Ugh.
And it
Come on.
crazy too.
Apologies, audio listeners. I got very angry and I dropped my drink.
Yeah, and the crazy like these games are not that. I mean, they're definitely not expensive.
No.
Whatsoever.
No.
They're not $60 titles.
Yeah, our game is $20 and we have people complain about it. And I was like, it's...
Gee, and meanwhile, they'll go blow $60 on like Call of Duty or something like that. No problem.
Yeah, I went and saw
down Call of Duty whatsoever.
It is weird how people equate like cost valuations on things, because I went and saw my old bandmates play a band at like a dive bar and ran a $60 bar tab like that night, just drinking beer. Like that was one night, man. Like I could have bought our game 3 times, and you know what? Our game is definitely 3 times better than the show that I went and saw. I love them, but they're like not 3 times better than our game. Or like the fact that you can go buy like Dead Cells for $20. Or the fact that you can buy Terraria for like $20. Like, insane.
Well, Justin and I on our other show, The Catch-All, Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyways, right here on mixer.com/ConCalPod. But on that show, we have talked about our own personal valuation for games, where Justin's was like, I think on one of our episodes that never got released, one of our testers, he talked about Bloodstained, and my straight-up comment was... Yeah, I need this game to reach this level. And then literally afterwards, after we cut the show, I honestly started thinking about my statement where I'm like, okay, but why am I valuing this specific thing? Because for me, a Metroidvania game is worth X amount of money, but another person might actually be worth Y amount of money. So Megan in the chat's actually making a comment. Just an observation, the ebook/book market is the same way. Can't sell it for 99 cents, but when it's free for a few days, a lot of copies get picked up.
I believe that.
And it's like, you know, and I would look at this the same way. Like, you see games that are pennied out, or, you know, you see stuff that's pennied out in places, and people are like, I don't know if I want to do that. But
part of the problem is the cost perception too, right? My marketing instincts tell me that a book at 99 cents is likely to sell worse than a book at $4.99. And the reason being is that people devalue things in their head, right? Like, why is this only 99 cents? That's not enough money to be worth it. Like, I know, like, I buy stuff on DM's Guild all the time for D&D to support, like, independent creators and see what people are making. And, like, a 99-cent thing is suspiciously cheap. Like, if you make a module, I expect you to want $5 for it. Like, if it is not $5, that's weird. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, like...
I guess that's the whole reason why the mobile game pricing aspect, the whole mobile game loot box system is the way it is. Because you're at the point now, it's like, I know it's like a cool mobile game. It's like,
it's $2.
Yeah, $2. No, this one's free to play. Which ends up being
free to play
eventually.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you reach a breaking point with mobile games where it's like, yeah, it's free to play. My wife plays mobile games all the time, and she'll always, the exact same thing happens to her 10 days into every single game where she's like, yeah, I'm getting this new free-to-play game. I'm like, cool, 10 days in every single time. So I kind of thought about buying, they just offered me the last chance for their 2-week thing. Right. It's only $7. And I'm like looking at her and I'm like,
gotcha.
I literally have offered you a $7 game for mobile that is good, and you wouldn't buy it, but you're considering giving $7 to this to yet another Tapper game.
Yeah,
another
a Skinner box. They're like, hello, welcome to video game Skinner box. Press the button and it makes a sound.
The thing that blew my mind in my GameStop days was a Farmville.
Oh, yeah, man.
I mean, that was the classic.
I have seen people buy those things like lottery tickets. I have seen people who look like they are struggling and straight up telling their kid, no, we can't afford that, but buying like $80 worth of Farmville like tokens or cards or something like that. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Because that's also when the addiction strikes, but then it's also, again, it's the valuation of what you're spending time in and what you're spending, you know, your different amounts of money on. I've been in cases where I'm like, I'm not going to buy these 3 $60 games, these massive RPGs, because I'm currently playing an MMO where I've been paying $15 a month to hate myself.
Right.
You know, kind of thing where I'm mad at myself and which I've probably spent $1,000 over the year X amount of time on this MMO. You know, maybe that like a large amount of money. Meanwhile, I'm complaining about every 3 months picking up, you know, a $60 game sometimes. Because again, we all value stuff at different levels, and it's just the perception of things. So we've been going on a while on this topic and all around this topic. Before we wrap things up, because I did tell my wife I would be done by 7. There was one other major thing I did want to tackle, at least briefly. And it's just a simple question. Is E3 going to still be around next year? Because for those who don't, that's the question, but just for the background, for people who don't know, the ESA, the Electronic Software Association, the lobbying governing body, yada, 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 for the game industry who runs E3, turns out on their website, they had an unencrypted Excel file that had 2,000 plus journalists, content creators, mostly approved, but a lot of other people who also were not approved, just all sitting in a file.
Yep.
Some jackass, who happen to remain unnamed, decided for their own gain, to announce this to the world instead of trying to do something smart like let people know. And yeah. It ended up leaking out to the point that a lot of people I know, a lot of friends and friends of friends, were getting text messages and stuff like that, and phone calls at 3:00 in the morning, threatening them and their family and them and their children, and yada yada yada.
Yep.
I don't even necessarily want to get into the logistics of the kind of monster who would do that sort of thing, the texting stuff, because that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
And just side things, somebody blames saying, I still understand why the ESA needs your address. Can a photo ID be enough to get your press media badge?
You have to present it anyway. That's the worst part.
Because you have to fill out a form, and most of the places is you have to fill out a form, and it's some degree of confirmation. Yes, you still have to show your ID. You still have to. Sometimes you have to show an ID, a business card, and sometimes even a third form of identification.
Yeah, they want to see your W-2, which is hilarious because you're like.
If you're a freelancer and stuff like that, or or working for like an IGN, they need that kind of.
Or they're level. Like, show us what was the. That's another thing is the ESA is like a hilarious dinosaur because the list of things to use to confirm who you are is like, oh yeah, the insurance card for where you work, and you're like, that's hilarious, right? Like even if I did work in an office, like you think IGN's giving their stringers like insurance? Like it's not happening.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So no, it's just it's fascinating what they require, and like this was literally the first case, by the way, so far where I was like, I am so happy I didn't get a media badge this year.
Right.
But yeah, it's just
I'm like, but I want to know how popular I am. Will I get a death threat? No.
Well, like, so here's what's funny is like part of why I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you guys on the show is I have more experience being on the receiving end of press lists probably than you do. You're on like I guarantee you I have your contact info somewhere, right? Because I have been sent the contact info for like a lot of people were harping on them for it just being like an unpassword protected Excel file and got really bad news for you. That's what all press lists are. That's like the industry standard of a press list because it's a data efficient way to, store it. Like there isn't really a better way to store it. Here's something no one's talking about. Isn't it shocking that none of like the PAX press lists ever leaked? They don't have addresses because why would they? But they do have a lot of them have phone numbers, like that's not unheard of for your phone number as a content creator or a member of the media to be on there because like hypothetically you might schedule an appointment with me. I need to get a hold of you to figure out if you're like bailing on the appointment or something. Like there are reasons why it could be in there, but like it's crazy that this is the first time that's happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a media list for every event that you sign up for as media. Like, as an exhibitor, how else are we going to know who's coming? How are we going to know who to email and say, like, hey, do you want to come try our game out? Like,
well, there's a reason why when you attend, for people who aren't experienced with the media side of things, people I've known plenty of times will always ask me, like, so how did you, like, get an interview with X person, or how did you get to check out the game? Did you just contact their person? It's like, there's no one sometimes yes, but there's really no one no, it's because literally PAX, not Phoenix Comic Con, they don't know how to do their media, but almost every other event, I keep throwing them under the bus this episode, I do every episode, but I love it. But almost every single event has a thing where you'll be like, for instance, PAX West, let's use this as an example.
Sure.
I normally apply for PAX West somewhere around May to early June. We weren't really producing content at that time, even though I knew that there was a pretty high chance I'd get a badge anyways. I decided I wanted to just be a responsible content creator, media person, and wait till we were actually producing the podcast regularly before I applied.
Sure.
Normally, I start getting the PAX emails, very small, but for PAX West about the end of June. And I even started thinking to myself, I'm not getting PAX emails. I started thinking to myself, and I realized, because I haven't applied for media badge. I swear, I applied for that media badge.
It's also because the PAX media list didn't go out for a while. Like we just got
I heard
the
it went
full
out later
PAX media
too.
list. Yeah, I just got my hands on it recently, so I know that like people haven't been sitting on it for 2 months or anything.
Oh no. Well, sometimes it goes out earlier, but that being said, I know it went out a little bit before when I actually applied because we just got confirmed for media badges, I think like less than a week ago.
Gotcha.
And it was not even 12 hours later. I had 10 PAX related emails suddenly sitting in my inbox because the people got the updated list and stuff like that. And then just suddenly, more opportunities, more people for our devs to talk to.
You would hope that like the way that the it is a bummer because like there's nothing to stop people from just basically, like copy fielding the entire, email list into like a MailChimp and having it sent. Like I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we as a company are super against that, but it's really common. That's why you're getting slammed with a bunch of emails, right? Because like we only contact curated, like these people will actually play our game. Like one of our new titles isn't going to be on PlayStation anytime soon. I'm not going to email any PlayStation specific, content creators. Like why would I? That's a waste of both of our time. Like,
yeah. Or the emails that a lot of people get, which is just, hello, name insert here.
Right.
And those kind of things. I love what you do at insert site here,
I'm a huge fan of...
And I'm like, what content?
Oh no, the I'm a fan of your content and all the stuff you write is my favorite one to get because we haven't written a fucking article in like a year. That's not the kind of content we've been producing. I love those with all my heart.
A big fan of your content and insert complimentary item here.
That form of PR and stuff like that. I just followed with the Yosemite Blam's comment. I get if you're attending E3 as an independent creator/journalist, but it's wild how much information they had in that spreadsheet because that's just what they require. People like Kinda Funny lucked out because they have an official office that's you can literally look up on Google Maps where Kinda Funny is. Other people like Andrea Renee, it was her home office, which is her home listed there, and other people. So like it was a hell of a thing. Mike Futter posted about an hour ago. He wrote an article for GameDaily.biz. I'm just going to read just like this top thing here. The ESA also leaked the data of journalists, content creators, and analysts from E3 2018. Yep. A source has been sitting on this since August of last year and did not come forward until now as to ensure that the data was not exposed. The data has since been removed and is completely inaccessible.
Gee, if only the person who broke the story about this year had been responsible with it, huh?
Oh, I guess. Wow, then we wouldn't have the death threats and all the different people but that was a person trying to sensationalize the news and get their name out in public.
It's I mean never mind. I have thoughts, but I'm gonna keep them to myself.
We're gonna I feel the same. We can go in a direction there as well. But Yosemite Blam saying I saw this too. It's gonna be hard to get the media members to want to come to E3. So that's
crazy. Yeah.
Well, that's my thing. The joke for years has been E3 is dying. Different vendors are pulling out. Different major companies are pulling out. Stuff like that.
I was in this year, man. It was a day, the last day of the con. Like I saw so many abandoned booths, like booths that people had pulled out of, and to like cover up the fact that they were empty, the E3 staff had been putting like park benches in them, like as impromptu sitting places. But it was a bunch of them were empty on the last day.
Now to relate this back to wrestling, no, like it's like back when I got a crowd filler seat to attend a Monday Night Raw. Like if you don't know, sorry to ruin the magic for people, the shot of the crowd is always in one spot, and there's a reason for that. If you look at the other side, it's not as full. They have a little section of seat fillers. A moment a dad gets up to get his kid and wife a drink or popcorn, some stranger they have to pick from there has to go sit with that family, explain to them what they're doing it. It's like, don't worry, I won't leave when he comes back. So I gotta do this. Here, look, I'm official. And act
but it's the award show thing as well. I mean, that's like what happens at award shows as well, but just WWE, it's to such a much larger degree because also they can't keep seats filled anymore.
I got to experience that.
No, that's interesting though. But like the way they're doing it doesn't highlight the bad like part, right? Like they're actually making it look good. Whereas like the way that they were handling it at E3 made it look more sad. Like it'd be like, because it was like they're kind of trying to be like, look, it's a sitting area, and you're like, that's not what this is. We're not dumb. Like.
Yeah, no, so we're talking about all these vendors, all these things pulling out, and people pulling out while the show is going on, kind of thing. Like all this is going on. E3's dying. Who the hell thought that it would potentially be journalists having their information exposed, which did it under? So, Hunter, you've been in the industry a while doing stuff like that. You've been on that side of things, on the game development side and PR side of things. Do you believe that this could, because there's also class action lawsuits, I think a lot of peers was putting one together, a bunch of people putting it together. Do you think that this moment are we going to have an E3 2020? Let's just leave it at that.
I would bet money the answer is yes. And the reason is,
are we going to have an E3 2021 though?
It's hard to say whether they because they want to be PAX, right? Because they realize that that's a viable business model. Like, E3 was designed for video game companies to sell shelf space, or buy shelf space from retailers, basically for their games, right? Like to convince them, I need 20 inches of shelf space for my Marios, and that's not a thing. And it's not, it's just not really how it works largely anymore. And so the need for E3 as it currently is kind of outdated. It's not a good 3-day con, right? Like the thing that most people care about are the pressers. Lots of people I know who go never even hit the con floor. Like people with badges show up for meetings and biz dev stuff, but the con itself, it's now that it's open to the public too, it doesn't serve the purpose that it once did. Because if I want to go hang out with video game fans, which I do, I like them, the good ones at least. I like people who like the things that I do for a living. I'll go to PAX because it's meant for them. And also it's good for us. It's the best of both worlds. I can do business meetings and I can talk to press and I can go play some video games, but it's designed for the fans. Whereas E3, I was on the floor and two guys were talking loudly, clearly guys who had bought gamer badges, and they were like, wow, that's so weird. Why is that guy wearing a suit? And I remember just thinking yeah, this is our professional industry convention. That's why he's wearing a suit.
Well, the messaging on E3 has been so muddled for the last 5 or so years. It's kind of ridiculous what has actually E3 is pretty much borderline irrelevant because of the fact that they're trying to be PAX when the industry wants it to be an industry thing.
Right.
And nobody knows exactly what the hell it's supposed to be. I've now done 2 E3s. I did last year and this year. And I've said this before. This year was my favorite E3. And for those who don't know, I didn't get a media badge. I spent a large portion of my time actually hanging in a bar and drinking with this guy here with Hunter and with other people and stuff like that. And, it was it wasn't just that, just hanging with friends. Those opportunities hanging in around the bars and stuff like that I actually had more opportunities to meet people because.
Yeah, I was going to say most business development at conventions happens nearby at whatever the nearest hotel, bar or restaurant or something. Because people are when you're on the floor, it's super loud, it's super crowded, and it's just really hard to talk. So you usually be hey, let's talk about this later. And then you're off the floor. Plenty of people never even hit the floor, at all. Because none of us are going to wait in line. I don't have time to wait in line to play a game, right? If it's a 4-hour line to play your demo, I'm not going to do it. I wanted to play Cyberpunk, but because I'm not media, I'm a guy from a different marketing company. I don't have any preferential treatment. I can't stand in that line. I had stuff to do. So that's why E3 is an ill-designed con now that they're also opening up to the public, which makes that issue of trying to play games that already have lines worse.
Yep.
And it's a disservice to the fans too. I can tell you, I've been to E3 a bunch of times. Go to PAX instead. Don't go to E3. Go to PAX. Yeah. PAX is what you think E3 is. E3 is not what you think.
And PAX is better organized, better access to things, better information, just overall a better event.
As a fan, 1,000 times, oh my gosh, I would never wish E3 as a con experience upon a fan. I wouldn't do that. If you want to go because you want to be nearby, cool, I guess. But it's not going to be as good as you think.
It's not what it was.
But God, that's what I felt like for the GameStop Expo. Originally just being for managers, then he opened it to public, but it was essentially a mini E3. Was designed to just educate, store managers, stuff like that. But then he opened up to the public, and it wasn't crowded. We could get to appointment or not to anything we wanted to play, and it's pretty much everything you would have saw at E3.
Yeah.
I mean that was kind of what that experience was, but. All right. We've been going on. Yeah, that's not a thing anymore, is it? I don't think. GameStop Expo. But in any case, we've been going for a while, kind of talking about a bunch of different things.
Stupidly hosted it in Vegas, but yes, no.
I enjoy. That's literally the only thing I like about Vegas was the fact that GameStop Expo was there because it gave me a reason once every 3 years to go to Vegas and to never go back to Vegas.
Right. Well, Evo. You're not going to go to Evo.
I am not a fighting game person, and I didn't only recently even discovered that was a thing.
Oh, okay.
If that being said, if I am ever working for a company that does stuff related to that, I will happily go to EFO. I'm more than happy to travel. So, also I live in Arizona. I can just drive there. It's not that hard.
That's a short stint for you, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's no different than driving to Disney. It's a 4.5 to 5.5 hour drive.
Nice.
Depending on how much I want to raise or lower the stakes on getting pulled over by a cop. But so Hunter, thank you for joining us for a bunch of these topics. It's been a great night chatting with you. Where can people find you, find Berserk Studio, anything else they might be interested in discovering?
I feel like it would be very anti our company stance on refusing to sell our games to people through marketing to pitch our games. So they can follow us on Twitter at Berserk Studio. You can go to our website, berserkstudio.com. We just make a bunch of games mostly, but you can follow me on Twitter at Bond Hunter Bond, which is spelled like BOND. But yeah, for the most part, I would say the most active thing that you can follow is the Berserk main account. We've got some new stuff coming out that we'll probably tweet there first.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then for us, thank you all for joining this week. The ConCal. Wow, I couldn't say my own podcast name. That's where we're at. The Constantly Calibrating podcast is live every Tuesday. It's now live every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Move back the time 30 minutes so I didn't have to stress because last week was a pitch getting to this show on time. But you can find it right here on mixer.com/ConCalPod. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/ConstantCalibrating, Twitter at ConCalPod. I'm at Bear Punch. Justin is at Justin_Glorious. You can check Instagram.com/ConstantCalibrating. It's still mostly active during events, but stuff pops up there. You can come chat with us on Discord at ConstantCalibrating.com/Discord. Please make sure to leave us a review wherever you're able to. It really does help get the podcast in front of more listeners. I have a little shtick here where I say, including E3, because that's apparently how you get E3 thing. I'm not sure that's a thing I give a shit about.
Yeah, you might have dodged the bullet there.
I may have dodged the bullet there. Thank you. The need for apparently 25 reviews or whatever. But anyways, the reviews still help for other events and other things. So please, iTunes, Spotify, they do help the most. With that, I bid you all, and we bid you all, a good sign off.